His music, his generosity will outlive not only us, but our children and their children.
Imagine thousands of people holding their breath, a single note hanging in the air, and then silence. In that quiet moment, everyone in the concert hall felt it. Something powerful had changed. On February 5th, 2024, country music lost one of its strongest hearts. Toby Keith had been secretly fighting cancer, battling behind closed doors, even while giving everything he had on stage. He wasn't just a singer, he was a fighter. Months passed in silence. Then, the woman who stood by his side finally spoke out. And when she did, her words sent a wave of emotion across the world. It changed the way people would remember Toby Keith forever. But before that moment came, before the heartbreak, before the tributes, Toby had one last gift for his fans. One final, powerful goodbye, and it happened in Las Vegas. In mid-December, the lights of the Encore Theater lit up like fireworks as Toby Keith stepped out in front of a roaring crowd. No one knew it would be his last performance. The energy was electric. He walked into the spotlight, his white cowboy hat tilted just right, his guitar hanging low. And then came those iconic first notes. Should have been a cowboy. The audience jumped to their feet, singing with him, shouting every word like it was their last chance. Between songs, Toby gently placed his hat on the mic stand and looked out with a smile that had so much more than anyone knew. His eyes sparkled, not just with joy, but with something deeper. Gratitude and maybe a quiet goodbye. He joked about the freezing winds in Vegas and thanked his bandmates one by one. Bobby, Mike Lariat, and Mark. The crowd clapped louder with each name, loving every second of his heartfelt shout-outs. Then came the party anthem, Red Solo Cup. He let the fans take over, raising their voices high as confetti blasted through the air. Backstage, his family watched with pride and quiet pain. They knew what was really going on. But on stage, Toby never showed it. He didn't speak of illness. He let his music do the talking. That night, he took fans on a journey through 4 decades of music, from early hits like Should Have Been a Cowboy to fan favorites like I Like Girls That Drink Beer, and ending with a wild encore of I Love This Bar. But the most unforgettable moment? When he invited Trisha on stage. He gently placed his guitar down, took her hand, and kissed her forehead. The crowd went wild. He lifted her hand into the air, like he was saying this was their victory. Nobody knew it would be the last time he ever performed live. That very morning, his health had taken a scary dip. Scans revealed serious trouble, but he refused to stop. He powered through on pure determination. After the show, fans lined the exits, chanting his name, and he stopped for every single one. He signed autographs, smiled, and made time for each person. No complaints, just love. That Vegas run ended in a wave of emotion. From the first note to the last bow, Toby gave everything he had. For fans, it felt like magic. But that magic was really a farewell, a final promise kept. Years ago, on a tiny stage in Oklahoma, a young Toby Keith made a vow to give his heart to every song, every night, until he had nothing left. In those final shows, with bright lights flashing and crowds roaring, he proved he had honored that vow to the very end. But while he was giving his all on stage, behind the scenes, he was facing something far more painful. A private, heartbreaking war. It started quietly in November 2021. A dull ache in his stomach. That just wouldn't go away. He chalked it up to long nights and endless travel. But it got worse. Scans finally revealed the truth. A hidden tumor. That night in their cozy kitchen, Toby told only his wife and kids. Over coffee, he tried to sound calm. He called it a bump in the road. But as they held his hands, he squeezed back, fighting back tears he didn't want them to see. He contacted top doctors at the Oklahoma City Oncology Center and made a plan. Surgery, radiation, chemo. He was all in. He made a vow to beat this and get back on stage, no matter what it took. In June 2022, Toby finally went public. He shared his diagnosis online and told fans he was ready to fight and hoped to see them again soon. Messages poured in from stars like Blake Shelton, Lainey Wilson, and Brothers Osborne. Fans across the country flooded him with love and prayers. Medical teams gave him cutting-edge treatments and clinical trials. And through it all, Toby kept saying how lucky he was to have such care, even while undergoing brutal treatment. He recorded vocals for Peso in My Pocket in L.A. His voice was sometimes shaky, but his spirit stayed strong. Between hospital visits, he gave interviews. He didn't hide from tough questions. He answered them with hope. He even held a benefit concert in Tulsa, auctioning off a signed Gibson from Willie Nelson to raise money for kids fighting cancer. Each time he sang, it was like he was throwing a punch back at the disease. He refused to let cancer define his life. At home, Trisha became his rock. She juggled travel schedules, packed his bags, and stayed by his side every step. She held his hand during treatment and helped care for his wounds after surgery. Their kids pitched in too. Crystal read cowboy bedtime stories to help him relax. Stellan played soft guitar by his hospital bed, so music never left his side. Toby never asked for sympathy. He talked about music like it was his armor. Even while lying in a hospital bed propped up on pillows, he scribbled down lyrics. He'd hit record on his phone at dawn, capturing melodies that popped into his head before the pain returned. When test results came back clear, he let himself dream again. Dream of stadium lights and sold-out tours. But when scans turned dark again, he didn't break. He clenched his jaw, looked the disease in the eye, and scheduled the next round of treatment. For 2 long years, he battled. Some days brought progress. Others brought pain. But one thing stayed the same. Toby Keith never stopped fighting. As the preacher stepped aside, the silence returned, thick, sacred, and heavy with memory. Then Crystal rose. Her voice trembled as she approached the front. She spoke not as a public figure, but as a daughter. My daddy, she said, taught me how to change a tire, write a song, and walk with my chin up, even when the world feels heavy. She recalled a time when Toby built her a stage in their backyard just so she could practice with an audience of squirrels and songbirds. He told me that applause didn't matter. Singing with heart, that's what counts. The congregation smiled gently. Tears traced quiet paths down familiar faces. One by one, family and friends stood to share memories. Shelley remembered his laugh, how it boomed like thunder when he found something truly funny. Stellan shared how his dad once drove through a snowstorm just to watch him play 1/4 of a middle school football game. Trisha spoke last. Wearing a simple black dress and a silver pendant shaped like a guitar pick, she stood steady before the crowd. Her words were soft but unwavering. He wasn't just a man of music, she said. He was a man of faith, of family, of grit and grace. And every room he entered was warmer because he was in it. She paused, holding back tears. We didn't lose him. We carry him now. Every note, every act of kindness, every child he helped, that's him, still with us. As the service ended, a small choir led the room in a gentle rendition of American Soldier. Voices cracked, hands held tight, and even the strongest among them wiped their eyes. The pallbearers, his son, his bandmates, and childhood friends, rose to carry him one last time. Outside, the sky held the hush of winter, and a breeze moved through the oak trees. His casket was lowered into the earth at the family ranch, beneath the same tree where Christmas gifts had once been opened, where stories had been told, and where music had filled the air for years. A single guitar pick, engraved with Forever Cowboy, was placed atop the wooden lid. The family stayed long after the crowd had gone. Tricia sat on a folding chair beside the grave, holding his denim jacket in her lap. Shelley rubbed her shoulders. Crystal leaned into her brother, and Stellan strummed a few chords on a travel guitar. Soft, slow, like a lullaby for a soul at rest. Epilogue, the song never ends. Today, fans still gather outside OK Kids Choral and leave tokens. Red solo cups with notes tucked inside, lyrics scribbled on napkins, photos of concerts they attended years ago. A mural was painted near the entrance, a wide Oklahoma sky with Toby's silhouette, guitar in hand, walking toward the light. Above him, in bold Western script, are his own words, "Don't let the old man in." Toby Keith didn't just leave behind music. He left behind a movement, a blueprint for living with courage, for giving without asking, for singing with heart when your voice shakes. In the echo of each song, in the warmth of each cottage, in every child who finds hope through his foundation. He lives on. He took his last bow, but the spotlight never dimmed, because legends don't end. They echo forever. By summer, Toby Keith's memory wasn't just surviving, it was soaring. Across America, murals began to appear. In Oklahoma City, a downtown alley wall became a tribute. A towering portrait of Toby, guitar slung over his back, eyes lifted toward the sky. At the base, in bold white paint, the words read, "Built by music, carried by love." In rural towns, tribute concerts replaced summer fairs. A group of veterans in Nebraska hosted a Toby Ride, a motorcycle rally benefiting military families, roaring down old highways he once sang about. Children at OK Kids choral painted stars and flags on flower pots, lining the paths with colors of hope. A 9-year-old undergoing chemo said, "He sang to me once. I still hear him when I feel scared." At the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, a bronze statue was unveiled near the backstage artist entrance. It wasn't grand or oversized. Just Toby in jeans and boots, guitar in hand, had slightly tilted as if listening to a melody only he could hear. A plaque beneath it read, "The cowboy who never put the old man in." Tricia, now the heart and hands behind the foundation, returned to the choral weekly. She walked every hallway, checked every bunk, refilled snack bins, and sat quietly with new families. "He's still here," she often whispered, and everyone believed it. Because in every act of kindness, in every song sung beneath a string of lights, he was. At a CMA roundtable later that year, Garth Brooks summed it up best. Toby Keith didn't chase fame. He chased purpose. And in doing that, he gave us more than music. He gave us a map of how to live. As the year closed, an honorary day was declared across the state. Toby Keith Day, celebrated every July 14th, the date he and Tricia were married. Schools played his music during morning announcements. Local libraries hosted songwriting workshops for kids. Firehouses and diners handed out red Solo cups filled with lemonade, and the mayor of Clinton read out loud from one of Toby's early lyrics. "We all got a hill to climb, but I'll bring the boots." Outside his family ranch, the oak tree still stood tall, the one where he carved initials, exchanged gifts, and found peace. On Christmas Eve, Tricia returned there with her children and grandchildren. They lit a lantern, passed around marshmallows, and sang the songs they knew by heart. The wind carried their voices across the fields. There were no more standing ovations, no more encores, but there was a stillness that felt full, not empty, because some lives end with a whisper. Toby Keith's ended with a chorus, and that chorus still plays. In truck radios, in hospital rooms, in church pews and neon bars. Wherever courage meets compassion, wherever someone dares to sing, even when it hurts, that's where you'll find him. That's where the music never fades. On October 20th, the air around the CMA Theater in Nashville shimmered with anticipation. Fans gathered hours before doors opened, some holding candles, others cradling worn vinyl records and faded concert tees. A few arrived in motorhomes that still bore Toby's bumper stickers. The scent of popcorn, whiskey, and autumn leaves filled the street, mixing with distant chords of Beer for My Horses played by a street busker near the entrance. Inside, the theater lights dimmed as a montage lit up the big screen. Grainy home footage of a small-town boy singing in his bedroom. His first Opry debut. Flashes of gold and platinum records, and images of him kneeling beside hospital beds at OK Kids Choral. The crowd stood silent. Then applause erupted, as though he were walking on stage one last time. Tricia stepped into the spotlight, her voice steady despite the shimmer of tears. He used to say, "I didn't come here to be famous. I came here to tell the truth with a guitar." She shared stories of county fair nights, of their first beat-up tour bus with a busted heater, of Toby scribbling lyrics on napkins at truck stops, and of him never forgetting to call home, no matter the stage, no matter the time zone. Shelley followed with a story about her dad teaching her to ride a horse, how he whistled the tune of "Should Have Been a Cowboy" as she circled corral, and how he said, "Sing it like you mean it," or "Don't sing at all." Stellan, holding back tears, shared the quiet side of Toby. his habit of leaving gas money in church envelopes, of playing poker with veterans who needed company, of calling each of his children before every single show just to say, "I'm proud of you." As their speeches ended, a hush fell over the room. Then came the music. Miranda Lambert stepped forward in a denim jacket that once belonged to Toby, strumming "Love Me If You Can" with tender grit. Eric Church followed, growling out "American Soldier," as images of military families filled the screen behind him. The Oak Ridge Boys and Randy Travis led a solemn hymn version of "Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue" that built into a standing ovation. The night ended with every artist returning to the stage, joining hands for "How You Like Me Now." The audience stood, clapping and laughing through tears, shouting the lyrics back like a final chorus sent skyward. In Hall of Fame's main gallery, a new exhibit opened the next morning, Toby Keith, Built Strong. Inside stood his tour bus door, signed with decades of Sharpies from fans and friends. His first cowboy boots, his weathered guitar, a letter from a child at the choral that read, "Thank you for being my hero," with a cowboy hat. Beneath the display, engraved into polished oak, read a simple line. He wrote anthems for the everyday. He built hope with a melody, and he never stopped singing. Back in Oklahoma, the young oak tree continued to grow in the coral garden. Children played beneath its branches, unaware of the weight it carried, only sensing the warmth it seemed to offer. The wind sometimes rustled its leaves just right, as if humming a tune. And wherever people gathered, at rodeos, in living rooms, in dive bars and church halls, his music played on, not as a goodbye, but as a promise, that Toby Keith's voice would forever echo in the heartbeat of America, strong, steady, and always singing. On October 20th, under a brisk autumn sky, Nashville held its breath. The CMA Theater glowed beneath bistro lights, while cameras flashed and fans gathered for one of the most emotional nights in country music history, the Hall of Fame induction of Toby Keith. But this wasn't just a ceremony. It was a tribute, a love letter, and a final goodbye. Home videos lit up the big screen. A barefoot Toby teaching crystal guitar chords. Trisha surprising him with a new pickup truck. The family two-stepping under Christmas lights. Promotional spots had flooded the airwaves leading up to the event. One had showed a lone cowboy hat spinning slowly on a stool, fading to the Hall of Fame's marble facade. Another featured farmers, teachers, and soldiers singing lines from "Should Have Been a Cowboy." On social media, Toby's silhouette appeared on selfies everywhere. A hat, a guitar, and that unmistakable grin. The night arrived. Reporters from Rolling Stone, People, and Billboard crowded the lobby. Trisha stepped out in a sapphire blue dress, wearing Toby's belt buckle. Crystal followed, glowing in pearls. Stellan tipped his father's favorite hat to the cameras. Inside, the packed theater, legends and newcomers alike filled the seats. Dolly Parton, Garth Brooks, Luke Combs, and dozens more. The stage stood simple, just a stool, a mic, and a spotlight. His portraits lined the walls. Toby the Dreamer, Toby the Stadium King, and Toby at the choral, holding the hand of a child he never stopped fighting for. Little Big Town opened with "I Want to Talk About Me." Their harmonies were sharp, joyful, and loud. Then came the tribute video. His journey from honky-tonks to sold-out arenas, from hospital visits to unforgettable performances. Every clip brought both cheers and tears. When Trisha's name was called, she rose, walked to the mic, and paused. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for him. Her voice, trembling at first, steadied into strength. 40 years ago, I met a young man with guitar and a dream. He asked me for a glass of lemonade and a dance. I said yes. He believed in songs that spoke for the working-class dreamer, the lone soldier far from home, and the small-town kid with big hopes. He sang through pain. He leaned on family. And when he gave with his whole heart. She spoke of Toby's work ethic, of how he believed there might be better singers or better writers, but no one would outwork him. She recalled how he built OK Kids choral with his own money, so families wouldn't have to choose between treatment and comfort. "Toby, I don't know if you can see me now, but I know you'd tip your hat and say, 'Well done, sweetheart. I love you, and I accept this honor for both of us.'" She held the Hall of Fame medallion high. The audience stood as one. A standing ovation rolled through theater. Veteran performers wiping tears, young fans cheering like they were at one of his final concerts. Outside, beneath a canopy of lights, hundreds gathered. They lit candles. They sang Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue in unison. No stage, no microphones, just voices. Toby's voice echoed in every performance that night. His legacy shone in every story, and his heart lived on in every act of kindness inspired by his life. Inside that theater, a legend was enshrined. But more than that, a love story was sealed into country music history. As Trisha returned to her seat, the house dimmed, but one spotlight remained. And then, her voice. As her name was called once more, she rose again. One final speech, one final gift. In her hand, a single sheet of paper. He told our kids that music could mend broken hearts, that love could conquer fear. He never got to hear tonight's news, but tonight is his. When her voice finally said, "Thank you," the silence that followed said everything else. And then applause, rolling like thunder, lifting Toby's name sky high. If Toby Keith's journey moved you, please share this video with someone who needs hope today. Tell us your favorite Toby Keith song in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so his voice keeps echoing wherever music lives. Thank you for watching.